Thank you, Cass, for joining me. So, Cass and I are both naturopaths, and we get on so well. We've sat in Cass's house before, we've brainstormed each other's businesses, we support each other the best that we can. And I had a big fat zero knowledge about pelvic mesh before you started giving me some little bits and then
Yeah.
some other bits. And then you left me in tears. And I had zero idea about this horrificness of it. So we've also got Tanya joining us as well. So Tanya is one of my amazing PPPers, which is a preferred partner. She's done our LAW, Lymphatics Live workshop, and I'm working with Tanya, and she has been through that F word ringer
Mm.
as well. So Tanya, I would love you if you feel comfortable in while Cass is talking, if you wanted to jump in and share a little bit as well, because this blows my everybody here who has joined me on day one and day two of Boob Camp knows my thoughts on the medical system and our government and all of our other things. But
Yeah.
this yeah, I would love it just to hand over to you, Cass, and introduce yourself. And do you mind if people ask questions during the chat and I read them out to
Not at
you
all.
as we go?
Yeah. Look, not at all. Look, guys, I'm really open with everything and probably too much of an oversharer. So if I'm going down pathways that are uncomfortable or whatever, let me know. Um, I've gone as far as I've got pictures of the mesh that they just took out in my operation the other week to show you if you wanted to see it, because I think sometimes we need to really, it has to hit home. But what Chelsey was saying there about our medical system, our government, everything is corrupted and fraudulent. And the closer you get, I always say it's like a tornado. And you can stand back and you can look at a tornado and you go, wow, look at that. That looks pretty cool. The closer it gets, the more damaging it is. And then you get too close and you're sucked up in the friggin' thing.
Mm.
That's what our medical system is like. That's what our legal system is like. And the closer you get to it, the worse it gets, And so, I'm a naturopath and I'm a friend of Chelsea's. Um, I actually had a long corporate career before I was a naturopath, and I had two very traumatic births, a lot of damage that caused the need for
Yep.
me to have some sort of reconstructive surgery. I was only 35 when I needed that, and I'd had two births, and one was a forceps delivery gone wrong that required 42 internal stitches. Yeah, that was fun. And the other one, actually, my youngest son actually cracked my pelvis on his way out. So, two very traumatic births that caused a lot of scar tissue and a lack of muscle. And I needed to have some sort of procedure. I was 35 and had a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old, and I was 100% incontinent. So, I needed to do a something. And
Can we
that's
just
how.
ask,
Okay,
we can just ask in the group here,
go ahead.
women, like, do you know, have you been incontinent as well? So have you had the feelings of peeing yourself, not being able to control your flow a lot, if you laugh too much? So there's like all of those things that we normally see with women after childbirth. Like I know myself that, yeah, it happens to me, but I didn't know that I had a massive big fibroid and the rest of it too. But
Yeah.
it is a thing that affects a lot of women.
Mm.
Yeah.
It is, it is. And like I said, I was only 35, and you've got these two little toddlers and you're trying to, be a mum and run around with them. I was so completely incontinent that I would take a step and lose my entire bladder. And, the day this happened, we're out at a park kicking the ball, and I wouldn't play with my kids. I'd be there and be like, yay, but I'd get my ex-husband to run around with them because I knew I couldn't. And this one particular day, Alex, who's only 3 and a bit, kicked the ball to me. He's like, Mum, kick the ball back. I took a step, kicked the ball, and lost my entire bladder in the middle of his public park. And I was like, right, I can't do this anymore. I can't bear this. And that's when you start looking into what are your options. And I did do a lot of bladder physio. That is an option for incontinence, but it only works if you have muscle. So because my muscle was so damaged, it didn't work. So that's how I ended up on the path of mesh. And, the first piece of that corrupt puzzle is when you go to see a urogynecologist, they don't tell you you have options. I was told that this mesh is going to fix all your problems. It's a 99%, accurate you know, it works 99% of the time. It's going to be a lifetime fix. You're never going to have to think about it again. You're never told that it has side effects or that you could react to it. You're never told that there's actually options like a native tissue repair. That is, yes, it's a harder operation and a bigger operation for the surgeon, but it's less risky for the women and it has a lifetime, it normally has a lifetime repair rate. And because it's your own tissue, you don't react. But those sort of things are never told.
I can remember Cass going with my mum, and
Mm.
we went to the specialist, and I did the test too. You have to hold your bladder. Is that
Yeah.
they fill you up with water? They
Urinary
fill,
dynamics, so fun.
yeah, they
Yeah.
fill, and you've got to hold, and then something. What happens in that test? Can you
Yeah.
remember?
And then when you're standing there in front of the urogynecologist and the nurse, and you in that very vulnerable state with a bladder full, they go cough. And I remember going, no, I can't cough because I know it's going to be a flood. And they're like, no, that's what you're here for. You have to cough. And I coughed and
Yeah.
it was like an A bomb went off. So yeah, urinary dynamics is not a very fun procedure to have to go through if you've gone through that. But that's how they sort of start to assess what's going on and how you can fix it.
Mm.
So yeah, and I can see in the chat there too. Yeah, we was like, when I sneeze, I have to cross my legs. Yes. Incontinent. See, incontinent can happen later on as well. As we get older, we're losing muscle tone as well. So even if it didn't happen after childbirth, it can happen later on in life as well. Yeah.
Tanya,
Yeah.
have you got the same sort of story as the lead up to for you, babe?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much textbook. Yeah. So
Similar to
I
birth?
had mine, yeah. So I had my surgery 2 years after I had my second. Same thing, said I wouldn't have any problems, be great. So it's been nearly 10 years. And in January is when all my problems started. So
January this year.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so then you get on that, you get into that tornado, right?
Yeah.
It's like a cancer diagnosis. This, you go here, you get told this is the only thing that you can do. You get on the conveyor belt. This is
Mm.
next. And you
Yeah.
hop on the conveyor belt. And then you say, "Hey, but what about this? I've had this." "Oh, no. I've had this. Like, what about this?" "No." You're on that conveyor belt.
You are. You are. And this is the thing, when I had mine, so I had my implant in 2012, and I was one of the youngest women in Australia to have it at the time. And that's why I do a lot of the advocacy work, myself and another woman, because, as far as it goes, we are on the younger end of the spectrum. And for a longest time, a lot of the women, because they were, in their 60s, etc., they weren't getting listened to because the government and the medical model were saying, well, at that age, you're getting incontinent anyway. They weren't actually accepting that there was a case for this. So having a couple of us on the younger end going, no, all these complications are happening. And it's interesting because a lot of us, so I had my mesh removed 5 weeks ago. So today I'm 5 weeks post surgery. So I know, Tanya, you were a couple of weeks before me, I think, in your mesh removal. So that's where we're at the moment. But so what's that? 13 years I had the stupid thing in there. And for most of those years, they tell you that nothing is wrong. It's fine. It's in your head. It took me 5 years of seeing different doctors before I finally got someone who wasn't gaslighting my problems and who looked at the research I took them and all the information I took and actually helped me piece it together. And, she went through her thing and we did all sorts of tests and different investigations till it came to a point she said, I think you're right. There's nothing else here other than the mesh.
So what signs was your body showing, Cass, for you to put the pieces together
Yeah.
and come out that it must be the mesh?
Gosh. So many, so many. And you seem like a medical mystery. With it can have such a big range of symptoms because you think about it, got this plastic thing inside your body. Your body's reacting to that whole foreign object reaction. So you've got the autoimmune response happening that can cause all sorts of havoc and it mimics a lot of autoimmune diseases. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice today.
It's like a fly screen, isn't it?
It is. The
Yeah.
mesh itself, if you can imagine a fly screen, it's got the little, cross hatch, it's got the holes in it. And pelvic mesh in particular, and how it's quite different to hernia mesh, is the pelvic mesh is cut to size during surgery because we're all different sizes. So they come in and go, yeah, it looks about right. We're going to cut here, trim there. What that actually means is, have you ever cut through fly screen? You cut fly screen, you get that little serrated edge. That's
Mm,
what your mesh ends up being. It becomes a knife. And it becomes a knife that moves and gravitates through your tissues as you move, as you sit, as you bend. So it becomes just a huge problem in so many areas. So back to the symptoms, we see everything in these women from, the high inflammation levels cause a lot. We see massive headaches, massive migraines. Not last year, the year before, because last year I refused to track it. Out of 365 days of the year, I had a migraine, 360 of them. And I said to my neurologist last year, I said, I'm not filling out that book anymore. I'm too depressed. I can't look at that book anymore. And that was on top of, can you imagine as a naturopath how much stuff I'm throwing at this? The herbs, the supplements, the diet changes. It's like a bonfire that just gets bigger. There's a
mm,
lot of pelvic mesh women who have something called grey matter disease now, where their brain is actually, the grey matter in their brain is being eaten away and deteriorating because of the inflammation. Even simple things like the women, we get really damaged teeth. It destroys your teeth. It causes a lot of cavities. It causes bone density issues. The mesh itself causes massive pain. A lot of the women in our groups, they can barely walk. They're using disability aids. They're using walkers. And when this mesh is migrating through tissues, it's in your pelvic region. It's near nerves that travel right down your legs and up into your spine. So you're seeing a lot of things like sciatic pain and those shooting pains down your legs. You can't sit for an extended period without being in pain. You can't stand for an extended period without being in pain. You bounce all day, every day, because you can't stay in one place very long. But and like I said too, these autoimmune diseases. And just last week, actually, in a really positive move, the UK's version of our health department, I can't think, are they NHS? I can't think what they're called. They came out and they actually admitted from their research that pelvic mesh causes chronic fatigue. So I was like, finally, someone's admitted the
yeah.
cascade that happens.
Yes. Yeah. So some people can have mesh and not know about it, Cass.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's been really, really bad. Um, with the court case that started, women were starting to get their information, getting their medical records, etc. And what we were finding was a number of women were coming across going, "Oh, I seem to have all those symptoms that you guys have, but I didn't get mesh. Didn't get mesh." So many women in Australia were never told they had it. When we got their medical records says TVT, TVTO, Gynacare, whatever their brand is, has got a barcode on it. And they were never told that they were implanted with this mesh.
Mm.
So, and just the continuation of this, it's not banned in this country. It got banned for 3 months when the court case first started. And then the manufacturer improved the mesh and it got put back on. The TGA put it back on the register. They improved it by making it blue. That
Oh,
helped, didn't it? Yeah, it's not white anymore, it's blue. That helped. Yes,
yeah.
fabulous. So we're still implanting this. And as much as I have a lot of respect for my surgeon who took mine out the other week, sorry, I have cats. I've got cat hair everywhere. She did my surgery. We started at 1 p.m. in the afternoon on mine. It was 7 hours to remove it. In the morning, she implanted the damn mesh in somebody else. Yep. She's the best in the country, in my opinion, at getting this thing out, so I was happy to go with her. But we don't have any surgeons in Australia who are mesh aware enough to stop using it.
They cut. It's what they do. That's what
Yep,
they cut.
that's
Cut
right.
in, cut out. Their job is to cut. So
That's right.
the same week, Cass, so I think, you know how things just happen, things turn up. I had a lady ring and I was talking to her on the phone and she told me that she has ended up like having epileptic fits. She had
Mhm.
her pelvic mesh removed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like now I'm in a wheelchair and I have to have a carer and I have these fits and all this thing from having her mesh taken
Yeah.
out. And then I spoke to you, and then I've spoken to Tanya, and it's all in this whole week of what the hell, like, and there's no awareness of
No.
this going out. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about the court case?
Yeah, the court case. So this is something that was started a long, long time ago. It took a long time to get some traction and some outcome. Trying to get Any sort of recourse with this is really difficult. And what I will say up front is the class action system in this country is completely fraudulent, so don't do it. If you ever need anything, you can go to a lawyer. We have a funding system in this country where they will privately fund your court case. They will take 30% of your winnings, okay, whatever your settlement is, but you don't have to pay anything up front. That funding is available to every Australian citizen, but they don't want you to know it. So we all could have done that, we just didn't know. So what we did instead was get a class action together. And who do you go with when you've been wronged? Shine lawyers, don't you? That's who you go with. Oh my God, hell in a handbasket. It has been such a nightmare with them. It took us so many years to start to get some traction. They were putting all of these women, extra women, into the court case when we started it, which delayed it. And they were just trying to fill the coffers more, add more people, make it look worse. Yeah. And I think at one point we ended up with somewhere in the vicinity of like 26,000 women. And then the lawyers decided that, oh, no, some of those aren't injured enough. And so they cut out, went from 26,000 to 11,000. Yep. And so anyway, the court case has continued, and then we've gone through to win. We did finally win. It took a long, long time. We won what they called a landmark settlement, $300 million from Johnson & Johnson. And we thought, thank goodness, hallelujah. We had 3 lead applicants. So when you do a class action, there's always a couple of what they call lead applicants. They're people that have had a very bad time of it, very bad story. So those 3, all their details are put out in court. And then they have all of the class applicants, the rest of us, like myself, going, but look at all these other women in the same boat. Okay, so we're kind of the fodder that come at the back. But you think, the judge actually said, right, out of that 300 million, 1.7 million goes to lady number 1, 700,000 goes to that one, 300 goes to that one, and the rest is to be dispersed between the class action victims. And you think, okay, that should work out all right. No, it doesn't. Not long after that court case finished, with $300 million in their trust accounts, Shine Lawyers went under. But only their pelvic mesh arm. Shine Lawyers have many, many individual companies set up for all the different things they do. There's a pelvic mesh arm. There's a hip replacement arm. They have a different arm for everything. So if anything should happen, they don't lose the company. They lose their department. So they went under with our $300 million in their bank account, to which we had to then go back through the court system, back to the original judge and go, what do we do now? He then went out to tender and found new lawyers to represent us. The people he picked were the lawyers that we had with Shine. They decided to leave Shine and start their own company and then take our case back. Yep. So, we've gone back to court so many times. We started that class action, I think, was it 2016?
But I think,
2015? What
did
year
you
was?
tell me that Shine Lawyers got $100 million?
Yeah, not Shine, because Shine's not our lawyer anymore. But the lawyers of Shine who came across and made their own company and now took it. So last year, the judge awarded them $100 million in fees. He's paid them 72 million of that. So the rest is waiting there for them to ask for it. The government, so when you get compensation, medical compensation in this country, you have to repay Services Australia and Medicare for every bulk bill, doctor's visit, blood test, hospital stay. If you've been on a disability payment because of your mesh, I was on a disability payment for 6 months because mine affected me neurologically. I had persistent vertigo and I couldn't work. So you have to pay back all of that. What the lawyers decided, it would be easier, instead of working out everyone's individual amount back to Services Australia and Medicare, they would just do a bulk settlement to Services Australia and the government. The government's taken $30 million of our settlement as that bulk, and the women in February got compensation. The lawyers kicked out another 5,000 of our members, saying they weren't maimed enough, so now there's only 6,000 of us, and we each got $4,000.
$4,000 each.
Yep.
Yeah.
$4,000.
I've got one lady on Instagram. She's saying that she's part of the action,
Yeah.
the class action as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So $4,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want? And then let's share your story of trying to get this mesh out of you. And did you mind sharing how much it's cost?
Yeah. No, I'm happy to share. Look, the mesh journey to try and get this out started for me in 2017, because that's when I really noticed the symptoms. That's when I had this vertigo and I developed a balance issue, and I actually fall over a lot, fall over to the left because there's some vestibular damage, and they've never been able to work out why. They've put it down to an inflammatory process with the mesh. And after having to take 6 months off because the vertigo wouldn't stop and I couldn't work, I was like, right, I've got to find the smoking gun, got to get it out. But the problem was at that point in time, there was no surgeons in the country trained to remove mesh. Mesh was always meant to go in, it was never meant to come out. So no one knew how to remove it. I saw 7 different surgeons across 4 different states. I saw surgeons in Melbourne, in Canberra, here in Queensland, in South Australia. I went everywhere. I even spoke to the leading surgeon in the world for removals. His name was Dr. Veronicus, and he's in St. Louis in America. But I was a single mum at the time. I'm like, that's just out of the question. I can't go there. So anyway, that's how long it's taken me to find a surgeon who was willing to look at my problem and make a plan to get rid of it. But let's be really clear about something. Like I said, she's a very good surgeon. She's done a very good job, I think. But I've been talking to her for the last 3 years, maybe even 4 years, about how we're going to get it out. Mine was a little bit complex. Every time I would see her for an appointment, she would do an exam and palpate things, and she'd go, well, the mesh is where it should be. Yes, it feels fine. It's exactly where it should be. Even though I was struggling to sit and stand, try and stand up and you feel like you're cramped over, you can't move, etc. This mesh that she kept telling me was in the right place and it's fantastic, it's right where it should be. When she removed it 5 weeks ago, it had gone flop. The bottom piece of it had fallen down and wrapped around my pelvic bone. It had then adhered between itself and my bowel and stuck my bowel to my pelvic bone. One arm of it, that both the arms should have been attached up in sort of your hip region. They sort of pull out through your hip and sew it there, and it's supposed to stay there. One arm had come detached and was just migrated back and floated back through my abdomen. She had to dig like crazy to find that and dissect it. The other arm had come off as well, but actually migrated down into the top of my bladder and had hooked into my bladder like a grappling hook. And she had to cut my bladder to remove the mesh. So I had to come home from hospital with a catheter for 2 weeks while my bladder healed. This is the mesh that for 3, maybe 4 years she told me was in the right place and doing exactly what it should, when it was actually causing all of this pulling and cramping and moving. It's just a disgustingly dangerous product.
It's safe and effective.
Oh, like vaccines and everything else in this country.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Okay. So, what happens when they start cutting into the mesh, Cass? So what are you see? You chose I don't know if anybody else has dug as deep and interviewed doctors like you did, because a lot of women would go, oh, okay, yes, I can go. I want to get this out. I'm going to go to the surgeon and I'm going to get it out. Okay. I think you were telling me that the person in the room with the surgeon was the salesperson for the mesh.
When mine was implanted, yes, when I got my medical records, they have to write down who's present and etc. And when my mesh was put in, without my knowledge or consent, yeah, the sales rep from Johnson and Johnson was there looking at my surgery. I hope he enjoyed the view, because he was there. And this happens a lot when you find the medical records, because it's actually the reps who are teaching the surgeons how to implant this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So,
know. I can see Shirley there going, oh my God, yeah, I know. That's how we all feel. It's just that emoji with the exploded brain is
yeah.
pretty much how we all feel.
Tanya, once you found out that it was the mesh causing you pain and injury, what's your story about getting it removed?
Yeah, so in January, I started having trouble to empty my bladder. Like it'd take me a good 5 minutes to go to the toilet. Having trouble to use my bowels. By probably Feb, I'd have to literally push up on the perineum to be able to empty my bowel. And I'm like,
Me too.
right. So I went to my surgeon who did my hysterectomy, which was 2 years after I had the mesh put in. After he did an ultrasound examine me, he's like, this is too big. I'm not touching you. I need to send you to somebody else. So he did refer me to somebody that did my mum's surgery. And it wasn't wasn't good. So my sister did a lot of research for me and found my surgeon, which I love. He's been amazing. So it had to be done in 3 stages. So I've now had two. So the first one was urodynamics, and then to go into theatre, and he would inject everywhere that the mesh was joined with anaesthetic to basically numb it, to know that yes, it is the mesh that's the problem. So on the 3rd of April, I went in to have the mesh removed. And the mesh had basically strangled my urethra. So it had crushed it in that much. So when he removed the mesh, he then had to basically reconstruct the urethra again. But during that surgery, they damaged my tailbone. So they initially thought it was broken, but since they've done an MRI, it's not broken, but they said we call it tiger country. So I've not been able to sit on my bottom since the 3rd of April. So here now, I'm in bed now on my side, so I can't lie on my back for probably more than 5 to 10 minutes, but I can't sit on my bottom at all. So I take a lot of painkillers, nerve blockers, and they can't tell me how long it's going to take to heal. So I've got another surgery to come where they need to fix the prolapse again, and they're going to use the tissue from my leg. But they've put that at least off to August to reassess, just because it's caused so much damage. And they just said now that they've really just put it down to nerves. So I've been having physio, and the physio saying, we really don't know what to do. Like, we can massage to give you some relief, because my back and hips are so bad because I'm constantly on either side. So
Yes.
yeah, it's really affecting my mental health big time.
What else happened, Tanya, after you ended up back in hospital pretty quick?
Yeah, so I've got to try and remember now, because I was home for not long. I was lying in bed one day and got a really bad headache, just felt really abnormal. Called nurse on call. They put me through to the doctor's service. They called an ambulance, sent me out to our local hospital, and they said I was having a stroke. So they treated me for a stroke. And I said, look, I've had surgery literally just a week ago. They're like, we have to do this. So they give me medications and caused a massive hemorrhage. And then after that, I got infection. It's just been an absolute nightmare.
Because here you are, you the most beautiful lady, like pillar of your community, trying to help your community and all the fundraising and all the free stuff that you do. You're ready to build your business. You're like, Chelsey, I'm ready to do socials. I'm going to make videos. I'm going to put all of this effort in to starting my business, helping ladies with lymphatic health. And then you think you're doing the right thing because you need to get the mesh out. And then it's just been like, we've been on the phone. You're like, I'm in hospital. Back in hospital, Chelsey. It's just, yeah. And then like you said, the mental side of it. Yes, like the physical, but the mental side of it. So that's another reason I wanted to do tonight, Tanya and Cass, is so I think we can talk about it more. We can make like the awareness a little bit more. We can see how we can support you guys in any way possible. You've got all of our boob camp power, like behind you. But is there a light at the end? So, Cass, you're also doing your operations in a series as well, aren't you? Because you don't have any control now with
No.
with urinary, no control.
No control. And look, I expected that. I expected to be back where I was before I had the mesh put in. That said, it's still not great. I was expecting it, but it's still really disheartening, because there's been some women, I'm in quite a few of the mesh support groups, have been for a long, long time. And a number of the women come out and they actually go, oh, I'm actually continent. The scar tissue seems to remain and they're continent. And I was like, please, please, please. No, it's not my journey. But this first surgery for me was really quite a big one. So yes, we took the mesh out,
All
which
of it, all of it,
All of
Cass?
it's gone. Well, she says she got all of it. When I show you the pictures, it actually is in pieces, but that's because she had to scrape it off my tailbone little by little. But she does think she got it all. But as well as the mesh, we did do a hysterectomy to try and limit some of the weight in that abdominal region. Because of the way the mesh had moved, it had actually cut through some other tissues and it had caused a complete bowel prolapse and bladder prolapse. So I was in the same spot you were, Tanya, having to manually hold that peritoneum up to be able to move your bowels. Good fun. Um, and then we also did
So
the
how, like,
should have
that's like sticking your finger in your vagina and pushing,
no, that
we
piece
could
of tissue between your butthole and your vagina holding that up.
holding that up.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
because everything moves, and when you're trying to go to the toilet, your bowel is actually trying to evacuate on that tissue. It's coming in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And then because of the cutting the mesh did inside, I had tears in the vaginal wall, the rectal wall, and the bowel that also had to get repaired. So hence why it was like 7.5 hours. It's a long one. So that's
Yes.
surgery one, and the plan was to let that heal 6 months or 12 months, then go back in for what's called a native tissue repair, which is what Tanya was talking about. They try to use tissue from your own abdominal region. So they take a sling size piece, it's sort of 10 centimeters by 2 or 5, depending on what they need, of your own fascia tissue, and they use that as the sling. Apparently, that's a more painful procedure than what I just had. And I'm going to be honest, day 2 in the hospital, I thought I was going to die. I got the nurse to come in and I said, "Can you write down some stuff for my husband because I don't think I'm going to make it." And she said, "Oh, you're exaggerating. Don't be ridiculous." I said, "No, I don't feel like I'm going to make it." It was so horrendous. So right now, I'm actually wondering if I can just handle being incontinent forever because I don't think I can face surgery number 2. And then there may be a third one after that, depending on how the bladder and bowel prolapse repair. I might have to have a third one to put those back where they belong. So I'm just, am I going to live my life on tenor pads? I haven't decided. Haven't
Yeah.
decided. Honestly, it's a very traumatic thing. Um, and something went down in my surgery that I'll have to have a chat to you, Chelsey, because I'm in two minds whether I make an APRA complaint about what happened.
Okay.
So much trauma, the way that I was treated by the anesthesiologist in the
Oh,
surgery.
he might have been the same as mine who did my hysterectomy.
Oh, really?
He was a pig. He
Yeah,
was he was
egotistical pig.
oh,
Yeah,
a pig. Yep.
yeah,
Because I did put in a complaint against him. It might be the
you
same
do.
guy. Yeah, because I spoke about not wanting a blood transfusion.
Mm-hmm.
And even the nurses there said to me that they don't blame me because didn't want to have vaccinated blood if I had
Yeah,
a blood
me
transfusion.
too. Mm.
And even the nurses said, she's like, oh well, she doesn't really know too much about the COVID stuff, but she sees what blood transfusions, like 1 in 10 can be quite fatal and bad.
That's
So
right.
I was told coming up to that I couldn't donate my own blood and my mum couldn't donate blood.
I tried that too.
But I get there, then they said, oh yes, you could have,
Oh,
right? And then he's arguing with me about, oh, this, what are you scared about? It's just like getting the COVID, right? It's just a prick. It's just a whatever. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
hello.
he's a
So
prick.
this is like years ago, and I was so scared that they were just going to jab me in
Yeah.
hospital, like with something. I said, mate, I said, all I want to be thinking about is rainbows and unicorns at the
Hmm.
moment and like happy, beautiful thoughts. And he was like at me. So I said, you know what? He's like, oh, I'll give you this, I'll give you this. I said, no, no, I don't want, I just give me the bare minimum to put me to
Hmm.
sleep. And then
Yeah.
that's it. You keep your needles, you just stay away
That's right.
from me. I woke up in the worst pain of my fucking life.
Yeah.
Right. I woke up and then started pressing the button. I
Mm.
asked the nurse and then for
Mm.
some pain after that. But yeah, they're horrendous.
Yeah, he was. And
Yeah.
it's a similar thing,
I've been the
because I
same
didn't want
guy.
the spinal, and I was really worried about the spinal. A
Mm.
friend of mine had pelvic mesh removed in March, same surgeon and anesthesiologist. And with the surgery they did for us, they were going to do a spinal morphine, which would paralyze you from the waist down as a method of pain relief for those first couple of days after you wake up. And it sounds all good in practice, but my friend, who is a little bit of a, hardier person than I am, the sensitive one who reacts to Panadol, She reacted to the spinal. The spinal actually traveled the wrong way, went up her spine, and it paralyzed her diaphragm and her lungs, and she nearly died on the table.
Yeah.
And so I've said to the guy, he's come in, I got any questions? I said, yeah, actually, I'm really worried about that spinal. I'm not sure I want to have it. And he got his ego on and he says, well, if you want to be in pain, that's nothing to do with me. Why don't you want it? I said, well, my friend had this reaction. From that point on, he didn't care about me. He wasn't allaying my fears. He's like, what's your friend's name? What date was it? What was her last name? And he
Mm.
was just more worried about his own ego than me. And before I went to sleep, the last thing I remember before I went to sleep was him making a joke at my expense and the surgical team in the room giggling behind my back. And I mean behind my back. I'm sitting there on the edge of the bed and you're essentially naked. You've got this paper gown over you, but you're hunched over the bed while they're putting this spinal thing. And I did agree to have it. And they're putting this thing in. He's behind my back. I can't see anyone except the old man who's holding me, and I'm half naked, feeling weird because this old dude's holding on to me. And they're making a joke about being behind my back.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
medical system is a flipping joke.
Yeah.
Disgusting joke, the whole lot of it.
Yeah. I'd love to be able to change it. Like if people ask me like what is one thing that you want in the world,
Mm,
right? The one thing I would love is justice. I don't want peace, love, whatever. I just want justice.
yeah.
Yeah, Catherine's going, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm with Catherine.
yeah. That's all. I just would love some justice.
Yeah.
I went
And
a bit at least a
Disgusting.
month when I had the surgery, and I kept saying to them, I can't sit on my bottom, like there's something wrong there. And
Mm,
like, no, no, it's just healing. It's just healing. Then after getting transferred back to the hospital in Melbourne, which is like a good 2 and a bit hours away, so I'd lie in the back seat, my brother would drive me down.
mm.
And then finally they said, oh, look, we'll get a colorectal specialist in. You know, it's nothing that's happened through the surgery.
Of course
So
not.
he came in and he said, oh, you've got an abscess. I'm going to take you to theatre. I'll do a colonoscopy. Well, we got you there. So when they got me in, I didn't have an abscess. I had a massive tear, which was in line with the coccyx bone. So
Mm.
they did a repair on that. Um, so yeah, I just felt like I was talking to Chelsey, and I'm like, I just feel like I'm getting fobbed off. Like,
You are. You
yeah,
absolutely are. They
felt
don't
like I was
listen and
getting,
they don't care.
yeah, yep. So, and then in the end, the last trip I had was probably the best one, and they found out exactly what was going on. And now I've got an acute pain specialist, and
Mm.
I hate taking the medications, but I stopped taking them one day last week. I thought I'm not going to have them in the day and just
Yeah.
see. The worst mistake. I did that.
No.
Then I had pain, the
Yeah.
worst pain for days because I'd sort of got
Mm.
out of the routine of having the regular pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
horrid.
I also think too, with the surgery itself, complications and the complete stuff ups aside, they don't prepare you for what it's really like and the pain you're about to experience. When that spinal wore off and I felt the pain of it, I was completely unprepared for it. It was nothing like I've ever felt before. If I said to a friend of mine, if you look at the magic trick where they saw someone in half, imagine they actually sawed you in half. I think that's probably what it feels like. It's a very sharp, intense burning. It goes everywhere. It's not just at the site, it's right around your back, it's right around the front. And because of the severity of the pain, it actually brings nausea with it. So you're in this, and I actually had a reaction to the anesthetic where I had a massive migraine for the first 3 days after surgery. So all of this is going on at once. But I just think they do you an injustice because they don't explain the pain.
Hey, but you got $4,000 for it, Cass.
Woohoo!
What are you complaining about?
I know. If only I was the lawyer, hey?
Yeah.
Okay, look, and let's be really clear. There is another disbursement of $4,000 possibly coming in 2027.
Oh, can we all celebrate that too?
Yeah, let's just hold off the celebration till it comes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
2027, we won't have cash by then.
the inflation's going to be so high, it's not going to be worth anything anyway.
No,
So,
no. Can we talk about a little bit about the mesh itself and how it holds the bacteria? Because I want all women to know if you are going in for any type of hysterectomy, cesareans, like any type of operations down there, It
Mm.
is so important to get the bacteria right, because I know that when I went and had my hysterectomy, I had had some swabs done, and I checked what the environment was down there, what bacteria and everything was there, because there's some baddies and there's some goodies. And then you can get all of that right. If you can get all of that right before you go and have an operation, I think your recovery is so much better. You don't get
Mm.
infections, like, but the doctors will tell you it's not necessary and it's not needed.
Mm.
I know that I recovered super well because I did that preparation
Yeah,
first. But like you were telling me about when you cut into the mesh, that lets the bacteria out and about, doesn't it? So
yeah,
did you want to
it
talk a
does.
bit about that?
Yeah, well, the mesh, if you can think about the construction of it, and it's like that fly screen. So you've got all those little holes. Those little holes harbor bacteria, molds, candida, all sorts of horrible pathogens live in there. And you're implanting this in tissue, and it creates biofilms, and it's always in you. So you've got this disgusting garbage cesspool of microbes that are just forever in you. When they take the mesh out, they do send it for microbiology testing and histology. Mine came back with 4 different types of staph. 4 different types of staph, to which my surgeon said, "Oh, I don't think any of those are a problem. We're not going to treat that." Yeah, so I'm on an awful lot of golden seal right now. But 4 different types of staph. And how's this for interesting? So the mesh itself, when they actually put the mesh in, they go vaginally, right? So they're going, putting an incision, going in vaginally, and then you get 2 little incisions on the side here. Did not realize this till about 5 years post-operative, right? In hindsight, I think, you idiot, why didn't you realize? 6 weeks after my op, I woke up one day after I had the mesh put in. Oh, and to be honest, I didn't realize what it was at that time. He actually made me think it was made of metal. So, and about 4 months, 5 months after, I had to travel to Singapore, and I went and made him write a letter because I was worried I was going to beep going through one of the scanners. Because he made me think it was like that old the 70s purses, they had that mesh. He made me think it
Yes.
was made of that. He didn't even tell me it was plastic. Anyway, back to the story. So 6 weeks after the implant, I wake up one morning. You wake up and you go to the toilet and you think, oh, I'm getting a bit of a UTI. You know that moment?
Yeah.
I thought, oh, feels a bit like a UTI, I wonder. 3 hours later, I'm peeing blood. And I'm running fever and I feel just terrible. And I take myself off to the ED. And they're like, yep, you've got a really severe bladder and kidney infection. They're having a go at me going, why did you wait so long? This must have been there at least 3 months for you to have these sort of, responses in urine and the blood. And I said, actually, no, it started 3 hours ago. No one believed me. When they tested it, it was actually MRSA. I had
Okay.
MRSA, which is methicillin resistant staph, which is what you get in hospitals. It's the superbug. But
Yeah.
again, they didn't tell me that. They've put me in a room in the hospital. They quarantined me. You're in this room covered in plastic. There's a biohazard bin next to your bed. There's only 2 people who are authorized to come in my room, and they come in like full hazmat. And every time they leave, they take the hazmat off and put it in the biohazard bin. And so I'm in the hospital with this massive UTI and kidney infection. The only thing it's sensitive to is penicillin, and I'm deathly allergic to penicillin. So I've got one cannula in this arm with antibiotics of penicillin, one cannula in this arm of steroids, and they just hope I'm not going to die. And but
Unreal.
no one, my surgeon actually came to see me because I was 6 weeks post-operative, so they called me, and he blamed me for being unhygienic when I wiped myself. Never admitted to me, never explained to me where that bug comes from, that it was surgically acquired. He blamed me. He said, yeah, you're wiping the wrong way. If you were cleaner when you went to the toilet, this wouldn't happen.
Yep.
Yep. So
Yep.
there's so many microbes. All the women getting their mesh tested have found so many different microbes in there. And strangely enough, a lot of them have found mold as well. And candida, as you would expect, because it's going in through the vagina.
So, Cass, well, we talked about Candida a lot in the last 2 nights of boob camp, and I'm
Oh, there you go.
yeah, we spoke about that. We did some lessons with that. So when this is released, a lot of ladies who are getting the mesh removed,
Mm.
they aren't getting all of the mesh removed, though, are they? Because it's getting stuck in bone and it's getting stuck. So, Tanya, I
Mm.
think yours was stuck, babe, wasn't it?
Well, I haven't had all of mine removed. So I have all of the left side, but I have a massive cut down my groin where they had to open up to be able to get the left side out. But most of the right side is still in because it was just too, he said himself it was too dangerous to take out. It would
Yeah.
cause too many more problems, that it was safer to leave that part there.
And that's happening for so many of the women. They just can't get it all out. And then we know that once you cut the mesh, you're causing more microbes to float out, you know. And we've had women who have, there's been women who've died during the surgery trying to get it removed. We've had women in our support group who have passed away in recovery afterwards from sepsis caused by the microbes that came out of their mesh. So I just don't think the government, the health system, they're not taking the gravity of this seriously. If
No.
this was a set of testicles that was having all this problem, we'd have a much better system to deal with it.
Yeah. Same with lipedema.
Yep.
No, all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's women's related. I hate to sound like a whingy woman, but I really think because it's women related, we don't get the airtime, we don't get the focus. If this was male related, they would have fixed this better a long time ago.
Right. I'm just going to go through some of the questions, babe.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I meant to check the chat.
No, from Artemis. I had a colonoscopy, was it? Oh my God, I need glasses. Reversed. Is it possible I have mesh? There was 4 abscesses because of septicemia. I felt sharp pains daily. Should I investigate?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely would. And, you know, let's just be clear, we're talking about pelvic mesh, but we're seeing the same issues with hernia mesh as well. So men and women are getting affected too. The difference is hernia mesh actually has a sealed edge and it's not made to be cut. So it doesn't migrate like ours does, but all of the other, you know, still a foreign body, you know, so yeah,
Yeah, check it out. Yeah,
definitely.
a lot of comments saying this is horrible.
Yeah, Tracy, the TVT is what I
Face.
had removed.
Yeah,
Mm.
Johnson and Johnson. Amy, I've never heard of this before. Far out, your poor breaks my heart. Yep. Hi, Cass. Do you practice lymphatic massage too?
Someone I know very well even sent me a set of pumps to borrow while I'm recovering.
Yes, yes,
I got friends in high places.
yes. I did send Cass a set of circulates so she can be in them while she's recovering. What other natural therapies have you found success with?
For the recovery or the mesh?
Yes. Is it helpful to alleviate your symptoms? So,
Yes, to a point. Okay, so I had a lot of people come to me over the years when I was practicing. You know, I used to have a clinic and now I'm just online. But I used to have a lot of pelvic mesh women find me and go, oh, fix my mesh, fix my problem. And, you know, I can help. You can help with symptoms and things like that. You can alleviate symptoms. But it's like asking me to fix the fact you've got a rusty nail in your foot but not letting me take the nail out. Until you take the nail out, you're never going to fix the problem completely. You're always going to have this bonfire that's forever building. So I will admit that you get to a point where, you know, your herbs, supplements, whatever you're doing, it does dampen the symptoms. You can control the autoimmune response and all that sort of thing. But it gets to a point when the fire gets too big. And that's where I got to in this last sort of 12 months. From 2017, when I first had that neurological problem that it caused, I found that in my blood work, I had something called an ANA titer, which is the precursor, the marker going, you've got an autoimmune condition. And then they start looking for it. I've been tested for everything under the sun, not positive to anything. And I credit that with herbs because ever since I found that, I've been treating it. So thank goodness, my hope is that in time now it's out, my body can reverse that because I don't have an autoimmune condition yet. That's my hope. But, you know, there is a lot you can do for it. But you're forever going to have this product in there that your body is putting a fight up against. And that's the problem.
So a really great physio friend of mine, I coach her as well. Her name's Sujana. She's in Sydney. And she's doing that pelvic floor chair,
Ah,
the chair that you sit in. And
yeah.
she has had 100% success rate with about 6 treatments.
Gee, that's good, isn't it? And I think as long as you've got muscle tone left, those things work really well.
Yes. Yeah. So she's specializing in this area and she's getting some fantastic results with the chair.
That's
And
great.
yeah, there was another lady that I met and she's got another little electro device where you whack in like some sort of
Yeah.
probe
And it
and
goes. Doop, doop, doop,
it
doop,
does
doop.
something or other.
Yeah. It's like putting a TENS machine up there. It gives
Yeah,
you this little electrical impulse. Yeah.
yeah.
Which again works really well, but you need muscle tone for that. So
You
that was
need
my
muscle
problem.
tone.
I didn't have muscle. So you need muscle to be able to tone it, and my inside there was just scar tissue.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah.
So, like, it's would be hard to do a day, Cass, because you need to pee so much. You've got to drink water, right? You've got to like all those things have to happen. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, do I put myself back on the slaughter table and give them a go for some relief, or do I, just keep going when, seeing how long I can handle this?
Look, and that's the question. And even if you do decide to go back for the native tissue repair, because you've already had this procedure, the research shows that you only have a 70% success rate. So you could go through all of that and find you're no better off. You could be worse off. You just don't know. The research also shows that, there's a number of women who've reacted to the native tissue sling when it was taken from the thigh instead of the abdominal cavity. So there's still a lot we don't know about those procedures. Those were created in response to having to replace the mesh. And I think, there's still, in this country, there's still not a lot of information about it. So it's a growing area. But I think, so many of our doctors are just so medically model minded. And I know that sounds a bit backwards because they're doctors.
Indoctrinated.
They
Yeah.
are. Do you know, even one of the surgeons I saw, because I flew to Melbourne to see someone who was very highly rated, and he said to me, "Yep, I can take your mesh out, but I'm only going to take your mesh out if you let me put in a sacral stimulator, which
Oh,
is a little electrode that helps your bladder go, oh, I need to go to the toilet. I don't need that because I'm incontinent. I
yeah,
don't have an issue with signals, thank you very much." And I'm
yeah.
sitting there in his office, and he said, so you're going to need a sacral stimulator. The reason he said that is because if my bladder got too full while I still had the mesh, I couldn't empty it. So I had to be really careful I didn't wait too long. But as long as I didn't, wait, I couldn't sit through a whole movie, for example.
Mhm.
But as long as I didn't do that, I was fine. When I saw him and he did urinary dynamics, he filled it up too much and I couldn't empty it. And we needed to manually cath it to be able to empty. And that's
Mhm.
why I said, oh, you need this thing. He sits there in his little fancy office and he pulls out from this little shelf under his desk this silver tray that's got three little metal devices on it with little electrodes coming out of them. And he said, so which sacral stimulator would you like? Yep, that was going to add 20K on top of the surgery. And he wouldn't do the surgery if I didn't have
Straight
the
into his
thing.
pocket. Yeah, straight into his pocket.
Yeah, something I don't need. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Cool.
don't know. I'm on a tangent now. I'm on a tangent.
No, that's okay. We love tangents because like these girls have stuck by me for the last 3 nights, me going off tangent all the time. So, that's okay. So Penny has said, I have the mesh and I've been to a gynecologist who says that it's in place. I get
Yeah.
pain in my legs, lower back, etc. But it's always put down to my weight and my lipedema. I was part of the Shine class action too. I got nothing, and her friend was awarded the $4,000. I have numbness in one leg that no one can tell me why, and she had this in 2008.
Wow. Yeah. So you had it longer than I did. I think the fact that you've got the shooting pains and the numbness down your leg tells me it's migrated into the nerves.
Yeah,
And if it was me, I would just be going, no, I want it out. I want it out. Because they don't know. And in defense of my surgeon, who I do think is a very good surgeon, when she's feeling for the mesh, which is supposed to be sitting there at the bladder, yes, she can feel it. The bladder, the pelvic bone, they're all in that similar area, aren't they? So, maybe for her it did feel like it was in the right place. But when they open you up, it's in completely the wrong place. And you just don't know. So, for me, particularly with those pains down the leg, I get really worried about that because we know it's migrating through those nerves.
mhm,
And that's damage you can't undo.
yeah,
I
So,
think I think too it's really important to have somebody that you can talk to. So I've got an amazing support service, but I spoke with Chelsey a lot as well. And I just knew something wasn't right and just kept going. And I think that's a really important thing that you know your own body. If you feel something's not right, get another opinion. Like
yeah,
keep going because you know yourself the best. So
yeah.
And both of you girls are into health, right? And nobody's and like not nobody. Your body and you know other people's bodies. So what about just the normal lady who's a bookkeeper or just works at a nursery or something like that who
Mm.
doesn't have a medical background
No, that's
and
right.
and doesn't have an advocate to
Hmm.
to sit there with them because we all look at the medical system as gods because they wear a
Yeah.
white jacket and it's if you don't have somebody there like on your side, you're just going to agree.
Yeah.
Just like the oncology unit, it's just yes, you just agree.
Mm. Look, and you have to, if you can't advocate for yourself, get somebody to go with you and advocate with you, for you. But I always say to the mesh ladies, you've got to look at your surgeon as a service provider. Just like you hired a plumber and you want to check out the one that's going to do the job the best, for the best amount of money and all the rest of it. They're a service provider. And you have the right to go and meet somebody, a surgeon, check them out, look at their surgical plan and go, yes, that's for me, or no, it's not. There was another surgeon, and she's a lovely lady in Brisbane, and I have so much respect for her. And in trying to do me a favour, she was wanting to do that whole surgery I just had, plus the native tissue repair in one surgery. She did it, offered it to save costs and save downtime because I am a mum. I've got two kids. I do the school run and drop one at uni, and there's just so much going on. And it's really been really hard for me to get the time off to be able to do the surgery. So, that was her surgical plan. So as much as I really liked her, I was like, you know what? No, that just feels too much. Too much, and I can't go there. For me, I think I wanted to heal first and see where everything sat before I get the repair. I think you've got a much better chance. But, these surgeons, they're not gods. They think they are, but they're not. So we've just got to work our way through it till we find the one who does what we need.
So another question, Alison said, "Oh, what is golden seal?" So golden seal is it's a herb, is what us naturopaths use for staph,
Mm.
and for immune, pretty much, Cass. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I used to use it as our sort of catch-all if we needed an antibiotic. Really good antimicrobial on a number of different things.
and
Mm.
garlic,
Yeah.
high dose garlic as well.
Yeah.
Okay, my daughter has had mesh put in her groin when she was 17. She
Hmm.
was born with a hernia, but was told we didn't need to deal with it until she got older. It got bigger and she got older, and hence the mesh was put in. I'm
Hmm.
worried for her now as she has other health problems, whether they're
Mm.
related to not, I wonder. How would I go about getting this checked? Lynn, whereabouts are you?
Piranora, New South
New
Wales.
South Wales?
Yep, just across the border from Queensland.
Oh, yeah, I'm on the
Okay.
Gold Coast. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hello.
Cass is on the Gold Coast.
Yeah. Look, go to your GP first. Go to your GP first. It might take you a few to get someone who listens. My GP is great. I've had the same GP for 15 years, but I still had to take a lot of research and information before she actually listened. But I definitely would, go there armed with some information. Hop on Google, get out some of the pelvic mesh information that's there, and take some of that with you because mesh is mesh. So we know they're causing problems. It is a problem when we're dealing with hernias, to be really honest with you, because you're dealing with tissue that's not been adequate. So it's ripped and you've got a hernia. How do you fix that? If your own tissue is not adequate to replace it, what do you do?
Mm.
So it is a problem. I know someone who just had she had pelvic mesh removed and she had a 30 centimeter sheet of pelvic mesh removed. She's been hung, drawn, and quartered, literally, to get that out. And she's actually a practitioner, Chel. But
Okay.
yeah, so she's going through it at the moment, trying to get better. And then after that, they're going to have to do a full abdominal reconstruction, trying to take muscle from her leg and God knows where. So,
Mm.
but yeah, your doctor's going to be the first one. There is a clinic, but I don't know if they would see her. It's specifically pelvic mesh. There's a pelvic mesh clinic on the Gold Coast. The government set up. But maybe they will. It's not a great service, just be warned. And I did go there in the very beginning and end up going privately because they're a bit shocking to deal with.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll start with the GP.
Start there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
just be in contact, Lynn.
All right.
Okay.
Yep. Sure.
Um, okay.
Thank you.
How do women treat these prolapse without a mesh? Is there another way to live with prolapse?
So look, there are some different products and devices you can have. There are, if you've only got a small issue with incontinence, there's almost like a tampon that you can put up there. For a lot of women, that works. If you are to the kind of degree that I was and you need mesh, then native tissue repair is your best solution because it's your own bodily tissue.
On in the chat, there's a question from Marlene.
Yeah.
Bronchiadiatis. What is that word? Is it too big for me? Any suggestions for that word?
Bronchiectasis.
What is that?
Is that,
Lungs.
yeah,
It's
that's the,
it's a lung disease.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, anything to do with tightness or if there is, I suppose, a lot of phlegm around. Like, Greg, where are you? Greg, do you know what this is? I know that I've seen.
Chelsea,
So,
it creates mucus and stuff in your lungs. That's what bronchiectasis is.
Oh,
okay, so it creates
It
mucus.
creates, yeah, plugs and phlegm and yuck. Yeah,
oh,
Okay, so
I have it.
what we use, oh, you're going to be a little bit controversial here. So what we use for that is N-acetylcysteine, NAC, NAC, helps with biofilm and breaking down mucus and that type of thing.
mm.
And I also use a nicotine patch a lot. It's quite controversial, but it opens up airways. So nicotinamide. Catherine's giving me the thumbs up as well. So yeah, I I get a nicotine patch, the lowest dose, cut it in half, and whenever I'm feeling a little bit down, hard to breathe, or getting sick, I will chuck a patch on
Mm.
me. So I don't know about that. I've been a bit controversial here. Greg, have you thought about the lymph capillaries in the feet and hands, which will relieve pressure to the lymphatic ducts? I started to do this a month ago with great results, relieving tension over the whole lymph system. I was in shock when I saw it happen. Maybe a conversation we can have. Yeah. So Greg, we'll have a conversation about that as well. And do you have a support group or website page? Shirley's asking.
Yeah, we do. So there are a number of pelvic mesh support groups for affected women right around the country. There's a number of them that meet up face to face. There's a number of them on Facebook. I'm actually in the process. So look, what's the word? I've really got the shits with this whole thing in the last few years. And I've taken it and run with it. So, and with the background in marketing has been quite useful. So, and I've actually, because I get on my soapbox a bit, don't I, Chel? Because I've run into elections already because I get on a soapbox. So
Yeah.
through that, though, I've been very lucky to make some friends in Parliament. So I'm getting some help from some politicians as well. So I've currently got set up meshwarriors.org, which is a website. As I said, I'm setting it up right now. So don't click on everything. It's not completely functional. But the whole point of that is we want to bring the issue back to Parliament. It came to Parliament in 2018. Darren Hinch brought it forward for us when he was a senator. And at the time, he presented it, and the Senate decided that this was the biggest medical mishap since thalidomide.
Wow.
Thalidomide was that drug that was making all the babies deformed, the morning sickness drug.
Yeah, it was safe as well.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what they said. Pelvic mesh was the worst medical mishap since thalidomide. Since then, the government made a public apology, and then they set up the pelvic mesh registry, which is only being used to prove that mesh is great and we should keep using it. It's done nothing for any of the women. So that's why I've gotten on my high horse about this. So last year I started plugging media and started putting out PR releases every week. We've had a few stories on a current affair, which has been good. And the next step is with Mesh Warriors, I want to take it as a not-for-profit. And we're going to advocate government to try and get a redress scheme in place for the pelvic mesh women. Thalidomide victims have a redress scheme where the government pays compensation because they were medically harmed by a failing of the government. We were too. Okay,
Yeah.
The government approved it. The TGA still approve it. So that's what I'm fighting for. It's going to be an uphill battle. At the moment, we have, from what I can gather, somewhere in the vicinity of 150,000 women across the country who have mesh. That's a potential huge amount of people who could be in the compensation for the redress. So Will I ever get it across the line with government? Who knows, but I'm going to try.
Have
Um,
you got help, Cass? Have you got other people who are helping you?
Look, I have a few. I'm going to be really honest. Most of the women in the mesh circles are older. And, I think, thank God I was a naturopath because, yep, I've gone through the ringer, but not as badly as affected as the rest of them. So I sort of lead the charge on it. And when people are feeling well and up to it, they come and give me a hand and then they sort of fall away again. So that's where we're at, and that's fine. But yeah, I want to make it into a not-for-profit. At the moment in our support groups, we just had to hand the hat around. There's this poor woman, her pain meds, $300 a month, but because she's on a pension, she can't afford them. She had to go off her pain meds. So we're having to, donate money into her bank account so she can buy her pain meds. Another woman who is so badly affected, the mesh cut through the nerves and she can't walk, can't feel one of her legs. But because she's on disability and she doesn't qualify for NDIS, she doesn't have a wheelchair. She's sliding around on her ass in her house because she can't afford a wheelchair. So, if we don't get a redress scheme, which I really want to get, having a not-for-profit set up where we can get donations and we can put them in the hands of these women is, my next big goal.
Well done, honey.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
trying. I'm trying.
yeah, well done.
Yeah.
If anybody is going to be the most amazing advocate, it's going to be you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Everybody else has put in the comments that they just want to cry. I just want to cry.
You and me both. You and me both. Yeah, Kate said, yeah, Senator Rennick's. No, I'd actually talked to him quite a bit because he actually rang me earlier this year and he said, "Oh, can you run for me in the federal election?" I said, "Oh, I can't because I'm in surgery just after
Yeah.
that. Can't do it." But and yeah, so look, I work a lot with Malcolm Roberts from One Nation. So I ran last year as a One Nation candidate, and Malcolm's actually got hernia mesh and he's got reactions to the hernia mesh. So
Yeah.
he's helping us there, as is Pauline. I have a few of the women, we've been going out to our local members. The local members aren't as helpful. We really need to get the senators on board. They're the ones who can really make a change.
Mm.
So, which state is the woman needing a wheelchair? She's in Queensland, Diana. Yeah, so we're going to send her one of those. But that's the whole point. We need some sort of not-for-profit set up where we can be helping these ladies. So many of them have ended up in a stage of life they never planned to be in. They're disabled, they're maimed, they're on disability. There is such a high rate of divorce in pelvic mesh victims. Our husbands are weak and they can't hack it and they leave. I say that terribly, but yeah, my husband was one of those. I had the mesh in 2012 and he left in 2014. So, these women are doing it tough on their own in a stage of life they never expected to have.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, even how do you then have pleasure with an area that's given you so much pain, right? The trauma down
That's
there.
right. That's right. And you can't, a lot of women can't have intercourse again because of the pain. Women that still have the mesh, so many of the women, their husbands and partners are getting cut because the mesh is cutting through the vaginal wall and the husbands have cuts from the plastic. There is a woman in one of our groups who, as part of her mesh removal, had a hysterectomy, and he took so much of her cervix and vaginal canal that she's got a 3 centimeter tall cervix, so she can never have sex again.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely abominable. And you wouldn't believe it, but when it did go to Senate, one of the senators stood up and said, because the women were saying about how affected they are and they've lost their partners and their sexual relationships and things because of the mesh. One of the senators stood up and said, "Oh, I don't think that's such a problem. You could still have anal." Is that too many? Is that too open for this? But yeah, he's like,
No.
"You can still have anal." Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
because they're all perverts, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yes.
Isn't that what we all want? Yay. Let's just do
Yeah.
that. Because, it's
Yeah.
got nothing to do with females' pleasure and wellness.
What are you worried about?
I know. Yeah, he could not believe that these women were up in arms about not being able to have sex anymore.
I wonder what church he came from.
Oh, I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to know. Scary, scary times and scary people.
It is. It is, Cass. And unfortunately, like one part of telling this story, I'm just going to turn this around and put it back here. One part of telling this story, I hope that everybody watching is going to get a good picture of what the system is like. Not
Yeah.
everybody in the system,
Mm.
okay? Definitely not everybody in the system,
Yeah.
but please be wary. Ask questions, be cautious, even if they're stupid. If you feel like the stupidest idiot, still ask. Still ask those questions completely till you understand, not understand, because that's that whole being underneath them,
Mm.
until you think that that is the best decision for you and you've seen both sides. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is we're at a time where I'm going to use it. We are waking up.
Mm.
I don't want this life for my kids and my grandkids. Like I want to make a change. We are not getting healthier. We are so sick. So many, like the ladies that came in today to see me in, not to see me, but to buy some products in clinic, and the ladies who called me on the phone today, like my heart, I can't, oh, I've got this, oh, and I've got this, and I've got this, and I'm still getting over the first I've got, and they're on their third, and I'm like, how? How do you do? How do you still even get up and do? How do you do?
Yeah.
With all of these things. Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And look, I think you have to, don't you? Even all these things are going on, but you still have to do. You have to drag yourself up and you have to keep going, and that's what us women do best.
yeah. So we're so much better than fucking men. Seriously.
We're not really men haters. It just sounds that way sometimes. Thank you, Diana. I took a copy of that. Thank you. I will pass
Yeah,
that.
yeah. The men need to rise, honestly.
We have a lot of weakling men out there, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that was the plan, right? Put all the
Mm.
estrogen in the water, make them think that they're gay and they're this, then they're that, and they're all the thing. Confuse them because if they take out like smoking, it builds testosterone, right?
Mm.
That's why they want to get rid of cigarettes, is because it builds testosterone. It gets rid of our alpha males. It gets rid of our alpha men.
Mm.
And then we just listen. Like we're just dumb females who like taking it up the arse, apparently.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Well, that's it. They want, castrated men. They want families that are broken. We want to break down the entire family dynamic. And the sad thing right now is I cannot point to any system that is working. Healthcare, finance, legal, government, education.
Hasten.
Is anything working? Really? So, but I feel, for those that don't know, I moonlight as a psychic medium and a medical medium, so I get a lot of other content and messages as well. But so we're on the cusp of things changing.
Yeah.
They've always said to me, the systems need to break to be remade. And
Hmm.
we're getting to that point, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
I am covered in goosebumps. Like I am so excited to be part of this. And I'm so happy to be a
Thank you,
warrior
Jesus.
woman standing next to you, babe, or like to do this and make it happen. And I bet you all of these girls here are as well.
Oh, thank you. I did pop in the chat the link for the website. As I said, it's not really working yet because I've only just started building it. And I did put my email there as well. If anyone, wants to reach out, you've got mesh, someone with mesh, point them our way. And we will do what we can. Tracy said had no symptoms since 2016. Would you say I'm safe, or could it make an appearance at any time? I would be vigilant. I'd be vigilant. I would definitely be keeping an eye on your blood work. Have regular blood tests. You want to be looking at things, your inflammatory markers like your CRP and your ESR. You also want to check that ANA titer because for me, I know it's controversial, but autoimmune diseases, as far as I'm concerned, is a light switch you can't turn off. So I want to stop that before it gets there. So always keep an eye on those kind of things. I think mesh is a ticking time bomb. I don't think there's any such thing as safe mesh. Even if you're not reacting to it, I think it will come. It will come. Have it long enough, and I think things will happen. So yeah, I think when there's safer options, like a native tissue repair mesh, should never have been an option.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but on that, before we finish up, just if you are someone with allergies, autoimmune diseases, anything like that, then mesh is definitely never an option for you. Okay. And also, I think that's one of the reasons I should have never been given it. I'm anaphylactic and I've got a lot of allergies and things, so my body already has a heightened response. So I think if you have allergies, autoimmune conditions, mesh is not your answer.
I'm trying to figure out a way to finish this on a happy high note.
Woohoo! We are going to put out the great intention that we get our not-for-profit, that we get our redress scheme and that the medical and legal system that is so broken is going to fall down and crumble and something amazing is going to build in its place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. We're
Mhm.
putting out that intention. We're going to see that, and then we're going to bring that into our now.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that if that involves hanging people, I'm in. I don't care. Blood dripping, whatever. Like,
I'm
I,
up for a flagellation.
yeah, all of those things.
Catherine's our people, Chelsey. I'm watching her face. She's our people.
She'll be front line.
Yeah,
Front
oh,
line
Diana's
with
up for the castration. She's one of us too.
us.
Oh,
Oh
ladies, you're
dear.
fun.
All right. So, Tanya, thank you for joining in late notice, babe,
Pleasure.
and sharing. I miss seeing your face. So thank you for turning your camera on tonight and being part of this group.
Mm.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to share, Tanya?
No, no, I will be back on the Monday session soon, just as soon as I can sit, because it's just hard.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, please take care.
yeah.
Not good.
That's okay.
Oh, and Kate, I did pop an email address in there. So I am going to have a Friends of Mesh on that website. So it's a space for the injured people and the people who are supporting us. So there will be that there. I just haven't got the mailing list up yet. So
Mrs.
during my
Reed,
recovery, I'm building websites. Hey?
I said, Mrs. Reed, Sally's on the front line as well with us. She's got a
Great.
good man. I met her husband yesterday, so she's got a goodie, so he can come too.
My
Uh,
current husband's a goodie. I picked much better the second time round, ladies. Yeah, I highly recommend having a second go if your first one didn't work out.
oh, that's a wonderful way to finish off. Anybody in Zoom? Did you want to? Okay, so on Insta, love this. Hey, body fit Ash. Love this first time here. Well, ladies, very informative. Ash, go back and have a look at the lives that we've been doing. Monday night and Tuesday night, I did go on a little bit of a rant. Those nights as well, but that's okay. Um, we love having this supportive group. And ladies, please, if there is something that you would like us to talk about, I do have beautiful women like this. I do have a good network. I can try to find somebody who knows more about things, which a lot of people know more about things than me, and bring them in to help and educate as well. Most of them will be, anti-government type people because that's my jam. So yeah, you just have to put up with that type of thing too. But Cass, babe, I thank you so much for everything that you're doing, everything that you've been through, all of our calls, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing you make such a big change in not only with you and leading the way with others as
Thank
well.
you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. And look, trying so hard. And thank you, because I think it was at the night before my surgery, we spoke on the phone and I just bleed all over you. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
I am happy, that
I
I'm
think
happy.
Chelsea was on the way to dinner or something. I'm just
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I was driving out for dinner and we had a chat because we're talking about because I'm speaking at the Australian Traditional Medicine Society, touring around Australia doing all of that. So we were talking about that, and then that went into the mesh story, and it's like, oh, I'm going in, and then it's like this. And okay, what can I do? I can send you a circulate, so you can at least recover. Better pop the legs on and use the compression. Anything that I could do.
yeah.
To help.
Everyone's been really great. But I have to say, I agree with Kate. It's not anti-government. We just have to it's the system. We all see the system now. It's the
Yeah,
system, and we need a better system on everything.
yeah,
Mm.
everything. Okay.
Nice
Thank you
job,
so
ladies.
much, everyone. Everyone on Insta is saying thank you as well, girls. Thank you for listening to me for the last 3 nights too. I love doing this boob camp stuff. And yeah, thank you for being part of in boob camp. We have got, look at Shirley. rubbing her boobs. We've 17,000 women now in boob camp, Cass.
Woohoo!
So yeah, happy for you to invite your mesh ladies if they want a group of supportive women
Good idea.
to come into there as well. And if you see anything pop up, please answer any questions in the boob camp group
Yeah.
too, because that's what we're all about, just supporting. And if I don't know an answer, I'm gonna find somebody who can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Big love. Big love, everybody. Good night.